It's time for us once again to begin reading in 1 Corinthians, and we're now at chapter 7. So it begins, the verse 1. Now, in response to the matters you wrote about. So Paul is saying the Corinthians had written him and asked him about matters, some things happening. It is good for a man not to use a woman for sex. So he is saying, yeah, it's good. You don't use a woman for sex. That's not why God created her. Yes, that's part of creation. But that is not the main reason there is a woman. And a man just shouldn't use her for sex. The second verse, but because sexual immorality is so common, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman should have sexual relations with her own husband. So Paul is saying, yes, it's common. Sexual immorality, if it was common then, it's very common now. We know that people take lightly sex, not being held to marriage, but just people that are having sex with everyone they can find. That's pretty bad, but it's so true with many. So Paul is saying because it's so common, each man should have sexual relationships with his wife and the wife with her husband. Verse 3, a husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife and likewise a wife to her husband. And that's talking about God created man and woman in intimacy and love. And part of the marriage relationship is to help meet those needs. So a man should perform that duty for his wife, meet those needs. And the wife should meet those needs for her husband. Verse 4, a wife does not have the right over her own body, but her husband does. And in the same way, a husband does not have the right over his own body, but his wife does. Now, that does not mean rights to say, do this for me now, you do it. It's not slavery. It's not saying, you must do this, I own you. But what it is saying is, I can't just say, I'm going to go out and have relations with this other woman. And my wife can say, no, wait, you can't do that. See, you don't belong to you anymore. You married me. So that is my right. You are mine, not hers. And the same thing. A woman cannot say, I'm going to go have a relationship with this man. And the husband said, no, because I married you. I have the rights to you. You belong to me. So those rights over their own body, but his wife does. Same thing. And the man does the wife. So verse 5, do not deprive one another, except when you agree for a time, to devote yourselves to prayer, then come together again. Otherwise, Satan may tempt you because of your lack of self-control. So it's saying if you're holding back those intimate relationships, those love relationships from a spouse, you should not keep that intimacy away from them as punishment or out of anger. Here he says, except for a time of prayer. So he's saying, caution, if you refrain from giving your intimacy, your love to your spouse, your husband or your wife, you're causing Satan to tempt, and it could cause them to go and commit immoral acts with someone. Verse 6, I say this as a concession, not as a command. He's just saying, I can't command you to do this. I'm recommending this to you. I wish that all people were as I am, but each has his own gift from God. One person has this gift, another has that. You see, Paul is saying, man, I wish you were like me. So Paul wasn't married, and he had a gift of refraining from those sexual relationships that were immoral, even though he did not have a wife. And he's saying, we each have our own gift. Some people are gifted to do things that others could never do. That's one wonderful thing about God's creation. He made us all unique. So today it can be confusing. It can be hard to talk about. But what those verses of Scripture are saying, the sexual relationship should be between husband and wife. It's a part of the marriage relationship. It should be entered into love and intimacy and commitment before God and with God. See, really, marriage is a three-way relationship. God there with the two, husband and wife. God bless you as you continue to read and learn in His Word.